Step into Mind Matters, where we reveal the high-stakes world of CEOs, from their first-day jitters to game-changing strategies, and equip you with invaluable insights and practical advice essential for your personal growth and leadership journey. And now, Mind Matters.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Kendall Raessler, and today I'm thrilled to have a remarkable guest join us on our podcast. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise as the Executive Vice President and Risk Officer for Texas Heritage National Bank. I'm really excited for our listeners to get to know you a little more and to know about your history, your past. If you wouldn't mind giving a little bio about yourself, both a little bit about personal and about your path in your career, that'd be wonderful.
So I'm from East Texas, from a small town about 2 hours east of Dallas. And I was born and raised here. I went to college at Texas A&M, which is the best college in the planet, I would say. I have a computer programming degree, and I've got some advanced education as well. I've got an MBA as well as a banking certificate from Southern Methodist University too. So it's kind of a weird path that I've taken because I actually have a computer programming degree and I'm working at a bank. So it's not the usual path that my degree would take me, but it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Absolutely. That is quite a change to go from doing an engineering degree in technology and being able to write code and all that, now all of a sudden in a bank. How did that actually happen, Chad?
It's really a funny story because I started, I was going to school at A&M, and as you know, it's a pretty intense degree. And I got into about my junior year of college, and I realized I enjoyed doing the computer work, but I did not want to write code all day long. And I realized that, I'm more of a people person. I don't really want to sit in a cube all day. I'm going to have to figure something else out. But I was so far in my degree, I couldn't pivot out of my degree. So I'd actually worked during the summer at a car dealership. And so the owner, I told him about it, and he's like, well, we need some help here. Come work for me when you graduate. And I said, okay. So I went to work for him, streamlining some business processes and doing some accounting stuff that I liked a lot better. But at I guess I've been working there about 3 years. I decided that I'd talk to him and wanted to really advance my degree. I wanted to get my master's and really kind of miss the computer aspect, but I didn't want to code. And that's when the IT departments were starting to form in different businesses. And it happened one day that I was making a deposit at the bank. I was depositing my paycheck, and one of my friends was talking to me about how they needed someone in their IT department. And I said, I could do that. And next thing I know, started working there. And that's how I got my start in banking.
So, interesting. Very interesting. So the IT brought you in, which is not a normal path.
No.
And I'm very interested to show with all of our listeners how your path developed, because going from IT to, risk officer,
right,
president, I'm sure no one just handed you the role and said, here you go, IT, let's move on. What was that journey like? Help me understand and the listeners understand that a little bit more.
So I pivoted probably into risk it's been almost 7 or 8 years now, but I was in a position, I was the CIO of the bank. I was running the IT department of the bank, have been doing it for several years. And at that point, my boss had pulled me into several different projects. When we implement things, I was always the project lead. And lo and behold, one day we come in and our CEO gives us notice that he has taken another job. And so my boss, who was the COO, had been tapped on the shoulder and given the CEO position. So at that point, I started asking him, hey, I've got this experience. I'd like to interview for your job. And it was a long process, but he basically let me have the job. But I was probably on a growth plan for probably 6 to 8 months, making sure I could handle the duties. making sure that I had, because there's a lot of knowledge that you have to gain outside of being in IT. You have to gain a lot of compliance knowledge and different department knowledge that I did not have. And so he required me to go through that process to gain the knowledge I needed. That's when I also started my program at banking school so that I could gain outside knowledge that I didn't have. I had the risk assessment, I had all of that down, but as far as how other departments functioned in the bank and how the accounting department functioned in the bank, those were areas that I was lacking. And so I've been able to get a better understanding. I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'm better than I was. I'm much better than I was. And so it's been an interesting kind of journey. And then I was really the COO at my last bank. And then I was able to come to this bank as the chief risk officer because we already had someone in a COO duty. And so because of our growth that we've had in some different areas where we were building, my boss asked me to be the chief risk officer because I'm handling the ERM in different areas for the bank. So it kind of fit my job here a little better than it normally would.
You see, that makes a lot of sense. And for our listeners, I'd like everyone to really understand Chad's journey. It's not been, here you go and run with it as a cookie. You have to work hard in order to do that. And Chad, if you don't mind me sharing with our listeners, when we spoke earlier to the podcast, you had mentioned to us that you had a few other challenges on a personal side.
Right.
And listeners, if you're open to sharing this with them, understand that because so many people, as they're growing through the executive world, do not get to understand all of these challenges and how they affect it. So if you don't mind, would you mind sharing that with our people?
Sure. It's pretty simple. Really, I was born with cataracts on both eyes, and through the process of had several eye surgeries. I have glaucoma as a result because of the problems with my eyes. It's a long, drawn out story, but anyway, long story short, by the time I graduated from college, I completely lost my vision in my right eye. And through the course of many years and the cataract surgery and the different things with the glaucoma, I do have a vision deficit in my left eye. And so I'm able to function without any problems, but I learned from an early age that I had to really, it would take me probably 25% longer to read things and to work through things just because of the problems that I've got from that. And so I learned from an early age from my parents. They were like, you can do anything you want, but you're going to have to put in a little bit more effort than everybody else. And that's just how you were made. So, the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be. And so I really didn't come to terms with it until I'd gone to A&M, and I had always handled school one way and never really had a problem with it. And I get down there in the freshman engineering classes, and I found myself on scholastic probation after the first semester. And I knew if I wanted to stay there that some things had to change. And so I started looking at my resources and started talking to professors to see what I could have done, and I could have extended test times and some things done. And I ended up graduating on the dean's list at the end because I had started asking for help, and I used the resources that I learned about that I would have never asked about before, but because I feel like I asked for help, I would have never been able to make it through college without that.
That's remarkable. I commend you on that. And our listeners, I hope everyone is really hearing this, that right from the beginning, you had this challenge.
Right.
You've worked through it. You've turned what people would consider a negative or a downfall into a positive. And you turned it around and it made you stronger, had you worked through it. And every executive has had to have those challenges they run across in one way, shape, or another. Whether 100%. It's the marketing department, they don't understand, a different department they've never had to do, just like you worked your way through it. And then you become a risk officer. I would a lot of tell you, that most risk officers are known for the word no, right?
Right.
And I bet you heard no, 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 and you
Right.
yes, yes. So how did you turn those no's into the way you operate in your current role to help others around you?
Well, it's funny that you asked me that because I will tell you for sure. And if you ask any member of my family, they're probably laughing as they're watching this now, because if you know me very well, you know I'm a very persistent person. I don't like being told no. I take no as a not right now. I take it as a not now, not a no, and don't ever come back and ask the question again. So that's the way that I try to look at things, because I've been told by I've had some been very blessed to have some very wonderful people in my path that have helped me and mentored me in the past. And one of the things that's always kind of stuck with me that they have told me is that, successful people create their own success. They don't just get tapped on the shoulder and go, oh, here you go. Here's this new job and here's this new role. We want you to have it, that you have to fight for it. And more times than not, you're going to be told no more times than you're told yes. And so, but people only see the yes. They don't see the times that you've been told no, or been told where you need to regroup and re-aim your fire, as some people would say. So that's one of the things that I always tell people. And I don't like to talk to college students a lot, because one of the things that I tell them is I share my story with them. And I said, nowhere on my diploma does it say Chad asked for help 15 times. It just shows that I graduated. And that's one of the things that I think that most people don't understand, is that, just because you ask for help, it doesn't make you a lesser of a person.
Not at all. In fact, I believe it makes you a better person, because
Right.
it allows you to bring the cognitive intelligence and help of everybody else around you. Like you talked about your mentors, how they helped you walk through, how you went to your props and you learned that, how you've taken your team. And when I hear you say this, I hear you say, I don't take the word no and say, get away from me. I take the word no and say, how do we find a path to yes?
This episode is powered by Honest AI. Honest's optimized onboarding process and minimized documentation result in an expedited and seamless financing journey for clients, enhancing their contentment and commitment. Through identity verification, financial data validation, and creditworthiness assessment, our software empowers companies to make well-informed financing choices.
Let's go around it, or let's work our way through it. Don't just say no.
See, because most risk officers have the quote stigma around them that they just say, no, no, no. How do we stop? How do we stop everything? They're that
Right.
real big block in front in order to get ahead. But
Right.
you're not that type, which allows it to draw further, which shows every entrepreneur, and when I say entrepreneur, I also mean executives, because they both walk hand in hand. If every day you come into a trouble, how do you handle it? How do you challenge it? How do you stop. I didn't get the words right. Okay, guys, start again. How do you pragmatically push your way through to get to the end point that you want? So when you're looking at, and somebody comes to your company and says, you know what, we want to bring on a new product inside of your business.
Right.
What different steps goes to your head mentally? And who would you reach out to? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
As far as, it really depends on the kind of product that they're wanting to bring. But like, for example, if we were wanting to bring a new retail product, we've got some people on our team, a retail operations person. We've got some other back end people. I've got some compliance people on my team that I would pull in. Plus, of course, you can't leave the IT person out. So that's my first home. So I always go to the IT person to make sure that you can do that with the system. And then you just kind of talk about it and feel the need for it and see where there's a void and, what costs are relevant. Just the thing that you do is you basically just do a risk assessment. And I know I keep going back to that, but it's really the way I was originally trained, because when I first got into IT was really right before Y2K. So we were always having to risk assess everything. And that's the way that I've always been taught to handle problems. You just look at the costs, look at the benefits, look at how it might adversely affect somebody, and then make sure that we could actually do it and still be in compliance. And really, at the end of the day, is it good for our customers? That's really what it boils down to. So that's kind of it's a nutshell of how we go through. It's a little more complicated than that, but 30,000 foot level, that's where we're at.
What lessons could you say that you learned to hand on to other risk officers that you've done? If I was brand new walking into this role, what's the first piece of advice you would give me?
The biggest piece of advice I can give you is that I know that this may sound trite, but one of the things that has really benefited me is staying up to date with news and current events and different things that are happening in the economy, because especially like with interest rates, and I know that that's a hot topic right now, but when you talk about the Fed lowering or keeping interest rates the same or doing what they're doing now, I mean, that directly affects our bank like immediately, because loans reprice, deposits reprice. How is that going to affect me at work today? And that's the biggest benefit that I will tell you that has helped me the most in my job, because it's kind of taught me how to think on a bigger level. And it's also helped me to keep in mind of how are different things going to affect my bank. And there's a lot of areas that don't necessarily affect us that are happening, but it's very, very interconnected, especially in banking.
That makes a lot of sense. And that brings the question to my mind. And I ask a lot of people this question is, when you've got to keep your eyes wide open, we have an old expression up here that says, don't put your blinders on and you only see the one little thing. Open them up, keep the news, look at it like you're saying. I love that idea, but how does that help you for a work-life balance? Because that's a lot of work and moving components that you have going there.
Right. Are you saying, like, as far as how do you keep your work-life balance if you're trying to keep yourself updated with current events?
Yeah, that and your job and the rest of it, Chad. Yes.
So the best way I would advise on that is, I know, and I'm not telling you this because we're on a podcast, but I found podcasts to be very helpful for me, because it's something you can listen to while you're getting ready for work. It's something you can listen to on your way to work. It's something you can listen to in the morning right when you get to work. They're typically pretty short, and it gives you the highlights of what you need to know. And literally a 30-minute investment daily, you'll find out about 90% of what you need to know if you invest that much daily into keeping up with news and events. It's not a huge investment.
No, but it is an important part. And then how do you turn off work at night? Because when the feds increase rates, everything goes up. Fears, emotions for everybody happens, and you're the one that's going, whoa, let's slow the horses down, if I can use a Texas expression.
I will tell you, my wife will tell you, I'm probably not very good at that, because my boss and I typically talk a lot after hours, just because that's the time when we can both align to visit, because we're both busy during the day. But one of the big things that I've just had to do is I've just had to disconnect and say, okay, I'm not able to do any work things tonight. I've got this personal that I've got going on, or this that I'm working with some other people, and my boss is the same way. We have a great relationship, so we all laugh about it, and it's very good. And I would say that if one of us is busy, the other one's very in tune with that. So it's not a big deal. It's really not. So I work for a great place.
That's fantastic. And let's talk about the place that you work about. Just for one question I want to bring up.
Yes, sir.
Culture. The people you work with and around you. How do you help support the culture and grow the culture with everybody? Your CEO is helping pushing that forward.
Right.
But that also comes to you as well. So how do you push that? And what is your type of culture?
Well, my type of culture is that I will tell you right out of the gate that I don't have all the answers and I don't know all the answers. That typically, if you're a department head, you're the subject matter expert. So your input is very, very important to me in helping us make decisions on what we're doing. So knowing that each person's got a valuable place on the team, people don't work for me, they work with me. And maybe I'm the team captain, but you need, it's just like on a football team, the quarterback needs the center to be able to get the ball, that no person is any more important than the other person. And I really try to, and I feel like our CEO does a great job of that too, is asking for people's opinions and making sure that people feel validated in their jobs. That's one thing that we really, really try to do. And we work really hard to try to do that, I would say. And by doing that, I think it really fosters a lot of improvement, and it helps get the best out of everybody when in their job every day. I really feel that.
You're very humble, Chad, and it comes through in many, many ways. And it's actually a very big lesson for all of our listeners, and including myself. Is, we don't have all the right answers. It's not about being right. It's about getting it right. It's about working as a team and going through there. How does your culture and the way that you work with your team translate to your customers that are coming to your institution?
To me, I feel like a lot of the growth that our institution has had is from the relationships that we have with them. I would say we're not we do some marketing, but I will tell you a lot of our relationships have come to us, but I mean, a lot of our customer relationships have come because of the relationships that they have with different people in our organization. That I would say our organization is built primarily on relationships. It's very relationship driven because a lot of the people that work here with us have worked with us previously or have worked with a friend of ours, and that's how they found their way to us. And it's also the same way with the customers. And that's the way we really like, because we feel like if we cultivate these relationships, that's the best way to do business, especially in banking, because you really have to work closely on some different types of situations. You have to work very closely with your customers to be sure that you're helping them succeed. And I can tell you some of the gentlemen that I work with and ladies that I work with, the thing that really impresses me more and more is, somebody will come to them with a loan request or something, and they'll be like, they would say, you might look at doing it this way, or if you do it this way, it's really this would benefit you better and it would help you cash flow better. And I know that not everybody does that, and not everybody has done that at different places that I've been in the past. And so again, by cultivating relationships, they know that somebody's there for them when they need it.
Well, and having a background that you have in the IT, how does technology play a role in this? Technology changing everything, as we know.
Yes.
So how does that play a role in your growth when you have that type of a culture?
Technology is very important. And one of the things that I've always had this stance when I was a CIO, but our CIO also has the stance that he takes, and I will tell you, and he'll laugh when I'm telling you this, but he takes it very, very personal. Like if our network is not running fast, our network is not running up to where it should be, that's a personal thing to him. And that's something that kind of carries over into all of our different business units, because everybody has a personal stake in what they're doing. They want it to be working, functioning at the top capacity it can. But with that, there's also, if there's an easier way to do something using technology, a lot of our people have really embraced the fact of how it can help them do their job more efficiently and easier. And that's kind of the attitude that I feel like we try to share with different people in the bank and our customers as well, because we've made some tremendous progress with our technology, and we continue to do some great things. And so it's just really good. I just feel like that people just having that personal stake really makes a big difference in your job. And that's something I really appreciate about him, is that he really wants to, he really is invested in what he does, and that carries over to other people.
That is a great answer, because technology, in a lot of people's eyes, is about certain aspects of the business. It's A to B to C to D. It's not about end customer. It's not about how do you integrate them. That's great. I can put my finger on my thumb or put my thumb on my phone, I should say, and certain things can happen. That's wonderful. But it's how do I feel? And if you're building that culture and that relationship, you have to marry the two of those together.
Right.
And being from the IT background, like you said, they teach you about risk analysis a lot. So how do you feel your background has affected that? And you have something you'd like to say on that, please go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to say about technology is that we kind of have the philosophy of, you can just pick your pen up and use it and write it down on a piece of paper and do what you need to do. And that's the way that we see technology is, the technology in your computer needs to be an asset or a something that doesn't create friction in your job. It doesn't need to create friction in the transaction. And that's something of how that we look at as far as what different things can we do and segregate and use technology to work with us and for us. But as far as my job is concerned, I feel like I have a perfect segue into a risk position, because, like I said before, and during Y2K, it morphed all the jobs all the bank examiner jobs kind of morphed from a Y2K examiner into an IT examiner in safety and soundness. And as they did that, that's when the risk, doing the risk analysis really took off. And as, we've gone from the early 2000s into today, the risk analysis is kind of taken over the whole bank now, because now you can't buy a new phone, you can't buy anything without running a risk analysis on it. And from the IT perspective, I really have the most experience in that, because I had to do it in the IT area so much. And so it's really been a great transition as far as I'm concerned, because it's just in different areas now, not just in IT. I just had to gain the experience and the knowledge in the different areas other than IT. So it's been a great segue.
Chad, thank you for all of your time and answers today.
Yes, sir.
This has been fantastic. I know our listeners will get a lot of value out of this, and there'll be many follow-up questions, I believe, coming from this. So thank you very much for your time and being with us. It's been such a pleasure. I'd love to have you back maybe another time.
Sure, anytime.
Excellent, Chad. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And from Mind Matters and Onus, thank you again.
Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. We will see you next time on Mind Matters.